First of all, acknowledge everyone for coming today. It's going to be an exciting session today. It's some really interesting things we're going to be talking about. And part of the discussion today is how to secure work into 2021. And really what we're going to be talking about is what should you be doing between now and January, other than running like crazy because we've all been let out of lockdown. But other than that, what else should you be doing to prepare for next year? And let's talk a bit about what we're going to cover today. So where are we going to start? Securing work for 2021, probably. Just for those guys who I haven't met before, my name's David Guest. I run Outcomes Business Group. So we've been running these events now since the start of COVID online. We've been also running these events live for the past 10 years. And it's all about just helping business owners get the tools they need so that they can grow. If you notice, our vision is reinvigorating the business dream. And the reasoning behind that was when I was a young kid, I used to work in my family's business. Has anyone been guilty of working for their parents in this room? Couple. Yep. And it was fun because it was like cheap babysitting for them. And I used to get paid tax-free because I was under 5. But I sort of came from a small family that were immigrants into the country. And the reason my parents ran a business was because they didn't know how to get a job. And they said, the reason we're running a business is to make money to send you to school so you can become whatever you like, a doctor or a lawyer. And that's what the choices were in those days. But reality is I watched them work really hard and not make so much money. And then I watched other people run businesses and make a fortune. And it started me guessing or trying to work out what the reason was. And the short answer was I found people who made a lot of money in business knew what they were doing and they knew how to build a business. They weren't just tradies. And so this whole idea of, if I ask this question, right, and I'd like you to type into the chat box, what was the reason you went into business in the first place? In one word, why did you go into business in the first place? If you can just throw that into the chat box, I'm curious to see what was the reason you started your own business, because there's generally 3 or 4, and I'll be interested to know what people come up with, because that's usually the dream, right? Unlimited income, thanks, Michael. So some people have sort of got this idea of freedom. Flexibility, here we go, freedom, thank you. Being able to choose your own salary, being able to choose your own hours, right? Unemployable, I love that one. That's what happens to you after you run a business for a little while. But here's the reality, right? Most people do it because they feel that they want to control their own destiny. Is that fair to say? And typically, who's been in business over 5 years on this call? Anyone been in business over 5 years? Only 1, 2, couple. So what's the reality? The reality is after 5 years, you realize you're going to work harder than you ever would for anyone else, and you'll work for less than is legal, right? Because as an employee, you have minimum wages. As a business owner, you get what's called leftover. And the reason this happens is because running a business is a bit like a 4-year-old taking a Great Dane for a walk. The question is who's walking who, right? And so this whole business dream, our whole purpose in life, Outcomes Business Group, is to get people who decided to run their own business to get back on track with what they went into business in the first place. I want to talk about a few of the problems that I see out there with business owners, and this is the typical one that we see the most, and some of you will be guilty of this. You're busy. Who's busy in their business right now? Can I get a show of hands? At least one, at least half, yeah. Now, here's the funny part. It's not called busyness, it's business, right? But typically when I ask people, they always tell me they're busy, and they're busy doing the work, which is sort of okay, right? We think it's good to be busy, and often people will say, well, that's great that you're busy. Now, here's the side effect of this. If I'm so busy doing the work, I generally do my operations, my administration work after hours. And so I'm limited on how much of that. And here's another symptom. My marketing is either small or non-existent. And if I ask people, why don't you market? They say, oh, I don't need to market because most of my work comes from word of mouth. Who gets most of their work from word of mouth in this call? There'll be a few. Yep. It's awesome, isn't it? Right? Because word of mouth marketing means that people come to you ready to buy. Now, the problem with word of mouth marketing is 2 things. It's not scalable, number 1, which means I can only get as many referrals as I get. And number 2 is it's not really proactive. It's sort of, it's something we can't grow easily. Now, here's why I believe most people don't want to market their business. The main reason is this, right? They are stuck in the middle. And if I said to someone who tells me they're already busy, that we're going to double your business over the next 12 months, they're going to look at me like, I can't work any harder. I cannot double my business. I cannot scale to twice the size. Does everyone follow me? This just nod if you're with me. And if you haven't got your camera on, please turn it on so I can see you. But here's what the ideal business looks like, right? It has 3 circles, the same circles, but different sizes, right? And the different sizes are pretty much equal, but the main difference is this. The business owner recognizes for the business to scale, I need to get out of the way. Right? I need to get out of the way. I need to allow the business to grow, and I need to get people to do the work of the business so that if we go to double it, it's not a problem. Now, people don't like doing this because they say, well, you know, I'm going to lose control of quality. I'm going to lose control of scale, and it's hard to grow a business. I just want to stay small. Now, anyone who knows what being in a business is all about knows that staying small is risky, right? And I want to talk about why and how we should market our business. That's the topic for today, is how am I going to get work, how to secure work for 2021. So the first thing I want to talk about here is marketing, because it all starts with spending money. And I ask this question often. I'm not going to ask you to answer it, but if I ask you, what's your marketing budget, right? If you feel like answering it, you can put it in the chat box, but what's your marketing budget for next year, for 2021? And I'll tell you the typical two answers that I get. What budget is the first answer. And the second answer is the least amount possible. Yeah, they're the two answers that I get for a marketing budget, right? Now, there's a reason behind that. And the main reason behind that is that if I talk to my accountant, yep, what budget? Thanks, Tom. The reason behind it is simple, right? The accountant will tell me that marketing is an expense. And when I have an expense in my business, my primary objective as a business owner is to minimize all of my expenses, right? So anything that goes out the door, I try and minimize. Everything that comes in the door, I try and maximize. Now, the issue with this is when things go downhill, when things get tight, like what happened with COVID, and our business sales drop, our logical thing to do next is to reduce our expenses, right? Everyone's with me on this? Doesn't work if you're trying to grow a business. The entrepreneur's view is that marketing is not an expense, it's an investment. Now, being an investment, what's the difference between investment and expense? It's really simple, right? An investment is something I expect to see a return on, right? My expense is money that I spend, goes out. An investment is something that I expect to see a return on, okay? Now, I want to give you a hypothetical. Here's my hypothetical. If I said to you, give me $1 and I'll give you $2 in return, and for every dollar you give me, I will give you $2. How much money would you give me? Into the chat box. How much would you give me? Michael, as much as necessary, as long as we can earn more than it costs. Yes, investment. Awesome. Everything from Don. Awesome. Well, I've got some good news and bad news. The good news is I'm not going to do it. And that's the bad news as well. I can't give you $2 for every dollar, but I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay. And this is what today's about, right? Because as soon as you recognize that marketing is an investment, not an expense, you measure it. And if you know what the return is, then you'll have the confidence to spend money. And the only time you should stop spending money on marketing is when you haven't got the capacity to take on any more work. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about work that doesn't make a profit. I'm talking about profitable work. And we're going to talk a bit about how you do that today. So there's two things you need to measure to be able to make sure marketing is an investment. The first one's a thing called acquisition cost. Now, acquisition cost is literally how much do you pay for a client? Now, if you know this number right now, awesome. You're in a very minority of businesses because most people can't tell me the actual number. It needs to be measurable, and I'll explain to you how you get it. Acquisition cost is this: every cent that you spend on marketing, every cent that you spend on sales. Now, if you do sales yourself, you need to count your hourly rate, right? What you would normally charge for your time as sales expense, right? So all the money that goes out in 1 month in marketing and sales divided by the number of new clients you get will give you your acquisition cost. Does that make sense for everyone? Now, it's not hard to calculate, but most people don't know this number. And not only should you measure it once, you should measure it every single month. Because for some of you, it's going to be a slap in the face to realize that, oh no, look, I didn't get any clients last month. Well, how much did you spend on marketing? Doesn't matter because it's an infinite expense, right? If I spend $100 on marketing and get no new clients, then I've got no measurable return on my investment. So then we keep following month after month, and you'll start to realize there is a number associated with acquisition costs. Now, the reason I want you to measure it is if you measure it, you can reduce it. If you don't measure it, you can't reduce it. So first thing we need to do is establish what is the benchmark, how much am I paying for my clients, and then work out how to reduce it. The second thing we need to work out is a thing called lifetime value. Now, what does lifetime value mean? In simple terms, it means how much is a client worth to me in their lifetime. I'll give you a simple example. Is there any accountants on the call today? Any accountants? No? So accountants are easy. Oh, great. Mullies. Accountants are easy, right? Because typically people stay with accountants for a long time, right? The average lifetime with an accountant is about 10 years. And if you're in business, your typical accountant will charge you somewhere between $2,000 and say $5,000. Let's stick with $5,000. $5,000 over 10 years means that that lifetime value is $50,000. Is everyone following me on this? Simple mathematics, but these two numbers, acquisition cost and lifetime value, are measured in dollars. not in how long, how many years someone stays with you, how much money did they spend. You can find this in your zero. You just go in and you look at your clients and you say, how much have they spent with me since they started? And it'll give you a good sense of how much they're worth to you. Now, once I know this number, I need to increase it, okay? Now, how do I increase lifetime value? It's pretty simple. I get clients to stay longer. And I do this by building relationships over a period of time and making sure that I'm getting those people to keep loyal to me, okay? They're the two things you must know to be getting marketing to be an investment, not an expense, okay? And so what we need to do is work out how can we do that? How can we get measurement on those two numbers so that we can start taking advantage of the things we're going to be talking about today? Now, the reason I want to bring this up for you is because today we're going to talk about the 3 things that you need to do to secure business for 2021. And where we're going to start here is we're going to say in the center of this, we're going to have clients, because that's what everyone wants. They want to get more business, more customers in the door. And the 3 things we need to do, well, the first thing we need to do is we need to attract. Now, I don't say market, I say attract, because what your marketing should be doing is it should be isolating who your target market is, and it should be making them aware that you exist, and it should make them want to contact you. This is what's called attraction-based marketing, and we're going to talk a bit about that today. The second part of this is that we need to nurture. Now, the reason we need to nurture is that people that you attract may not be ready to buy. Now, the distinction between getting referrals and having a marketing system is when people come to you on referral, they're ready to buy. You don't need to nurture them. You just need to quote them and sell. I'm not saying you shouldn't have referrals. I reckon they're awesome, right? But we need to supplement referrals with a marketing system. And remember, if this is profitable and it gives you $2 for every dollar you invest, the only thing that's stopping you from investing in your marketing is your capacity to deliver. That's a whole nother conversation, but let's talk about attracting and nurturing. And the last thing we need to do is we need to be able to convert. Now, conversion, also known as sales, is a technique and a method that you can learn and you should systemize within your business, not just so that you know how to sell, but when you scale, you can actually have someone else do the selling for you. So being a business owner is not just about doing the work. That's busyness, right? Being a business owner is about designing or architecting a business system so that people can work for you and follow your process. And we're going to talk about those 3 things today: attract, nurture, and convert, so that you've got a head start on 2021. Is everyone cool with this? Just nod if you're okay. Thumbs up if you're happy. Can you see one? Okay, there we go. Awesome. I can see some of you, not all of you. Let's get into the presentation. So what I want to do is introduce our first speaker today. And people get very excited about lead generation. But the frustration that most people have is they spend money with marketing companies and they don't get clients out of it. So they don't stay with that marketing company. And there's a couple of reasons behind that. So Craig Naidu, who works with Zib Digital, is going to be talking today. He's going to be talking a bit about not only how to get clients on board, he's going to be talking about how to generate leads and using digital marketing because it's highly leveraged within your business. So I'd like to hand over to Craig to do the first part of his presentation. Let's give him a nice warm welcome. Craig.
Thanks, David. Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Craig Naidu. I'm a partner at Zib Digital. And what I'd like to talk to you about today is how to help you build your sales pipeline for 2021. And we do that through digital marketing and lead generation. So the first thing is what we do is we drive sales leads through digital marketing. And we do that through a number of different mediums. And it can be one medium, it can be multiple mediums. It depends on how complex your marketing needs to be. But where we help you is within your sales pipeline, we work with the top 2 areas. That's lead generation and lead qualification. So before we kick off, if I could get an idea as to how many people listening today are running a digital marketing program, apart from David Beaton, who I know is running a program, but everyone else, could you stick your hand up to let me know if you are running a program? Awesome. Okay, so I can see a couple of people have stuck their hand up, which is great. All right, so when you're running a digital marketing program, you need to know the following. So you need to know how many phone calls is your marketing generating? How many contact us form submissions are you getting? And how many sales are you getting from your digital marketing? Then you also need to drill down into what digital mediums are best working for you so that you can get the best value for your cost per acquisition of customers. Then you need to also understand how many touch points does it take to generate a lead or a sale. Then you need to look at how quickly you're answering your leads, because the longer you leave a lead, the colder it gets. And then also, are you monitoring your inbound calls, and are you seeing how they're being answered so that you can improve your process? And finally, are there any gaps in your sales process? So when we talk about visibility over a program, I want to show you an e-commerce customer. So this is their October figures, and in October they generated 9,547 sales through e-commerce, which amounted to $663,934, which is great. But then you also need to understand what mediums are generating the sales. So we can see from this slide that Google Ads is the number one, then organic, and then direct. And then you can see from there that there are some smaller mediums generating sales. But you need to understand where your investment is standing from a lead generation and a sale perspective. Now, the next business that I wanted to highlight is a professional services businesses. Again, this is for the month of October, and they generated 695 phone calls, contact us form submissions, and live chat. So from this business, we can see that Google Organics generating 147, Google paid ads are generating 311, and Facebook paid ads are generating 46. And they're the three main sources for these particular businesses. If you're running social media ads, then I just wanted to highlight a report that we do, which tells you exactly how many leads you're generating per month. Tells you how much you're investing. In this case, it was $607.23. So the cost per lead from this particular media for this business was $26. So these are all really critical components to understanding how your digital marketing is working. So you need that visibility. Now, what we do in many circumstances with our customers is we encourage them to take on phone call tracking, because it's a really important part of lead generation. So in this particular case, we have a week's worth of phone calls for this customer, and over that week they generated 92 calls. Now those calls went for on average 2 minutes and 4 seconds, and they were all from the website. Now down below on the bottom left, you can see that there's 3 phone calls that we're measuring. That's direct, that's SEO, and that's social. And over that week, the phone calls that were generated, 78 were from SEO and 16 were from direct calls. Now, the real benefit from this particular measurement is that we can see that on the bottom right-hand side, that there was calls generated, say, on the 3rd of November at 12:42 p.m. There was an SEO call. You can see the phone number that generated the call, and you also have the ability to listen to the call. So these are really crucial when you're looking at how are the calls being answered, and also the quality of the leads that are coming through to the business. Now, this is a new technology that we're just getting a hold of, and it's absolutely brilliant. But what this shows me is over 50% of customers buy from the first business that responds with them. So studies have proven that a person's interest and intent is at its peak at the time of inquiry. So people usually submit multiple leads online, and it's critical that you as a business owner are the first company that they speak to. So being first means that you have the first opportunity to build a relationship, to book that first appointment, or to even close the sale first before your competitors have had the opportunity to pick up the phone. So most businesses don't have the resources to respond to leads within minutes. This particular technology enables you to get in contact with your customers or potential customers first. So how does it work? So essentially what Direct Connect does is it converts your website submission form fills. If you're using other aggregation sites, and I'll use a couple of simple examples of car sales or realestate.com, when a form is filled out on those mediums, whether it be your website or the aggregation sites, Direct Connect then takes that form fill and turns that into an inbound call to your sales team. And that then gives your sales team the opportunity to speak to that customer immediately. So it really gives you as a business owner an unfair advantage, and it allows you to grab customers when they're really interested the most. What I'd quickly like to run through now is a case study of why the methods that I've just spoken about are so important. So this business is a client of mine. They run a sporting and an event business. And at the 6-month mark of their advertising campaign, we sat down and we reviewed the results. And for me, I was really excited because the SEO campaign that we'd rolled out had grown their keyword positioning brilliantly. Their organic traffic had grown astronomically, and their lead volumes, which they hadn't been tracking before we started, had grown enormously as well. So whilst we were discussing the results, the general manager wasn't sharing my enthusiasm, so I had to ask what was wrong. And he explained that although he had seen the improvement in the digital side of things, it hadn't impacted on his sales figures, and they were starting to question the investment. Now, because I had these tools in place, that's the phone call measuring, it's the form fill measuring, I was able then to research the previous 2 months worth of phone calls and contact us forms, and I provided him with a list of all the leads that had come through for either membership or functions. Now, the concerning thing that I found was that there were a few gaps in his sales process, and I could only do that because I had the measurement techniques in place. So membership inquiries that were actually asked to call back to speak to the membership person if he wasn't in, and no name, number, or reason for the call was gathered from the call, or they were just asked to call back. I also found out that some of their contact us form submissions were taking up to 3 days to being answered, which is just scary because the person sends through a membership inquiry, they want to speak to somebody ASAP. Another frightening thing was when their reception were transferring membership calls through to the membership person, if he wasn't taking the call and the message was going through to voicemail, they had a glitch in their voicemail system, and that resulted in people just hanging up and not leaving a message at all. And finally, when it came to function phone call inquiries, they were being transferred to the functions areas. And again, if the call wasn't being answered by somebody, we found that people weren't leaving a message at all. They were just hanging up and the lead wasn't followed up. So over a 2-month period, because we had these measurement mechanisms in place, we found that there are either 50 leads that weren't handled well or were missed completely. So the nutshell of this particular case study is that by having these measurements in place, you can check, measure, and improve what you're currently doing from a lead generation perspective and turning that into the next step of the sales process. So in a nutshell, what I help businesses with is you can see on the slide there that we do the whole gamut of digital marketing. So if you need any help in that space, please don't hesitate to give me a call. So to nut it out in a very simple and easy way to digest what we do, we generate leads, we give you the visibility over your leads, we help you improve your response, and we help you improve your conversion rate. So that in a nutshell, guys, is what we do and how we do it. So if you have any questions at all, whack them into the chat box. But I'd like to thank you for listening to my message.
Awesome. So let's give Craig a bit of a hand. Look, I think what he hasn't done is given us the opportunity to ask him some questions. And what we're going to do is during this presentation, we're going to get you to just either put your questions into the chat box. And more importantly, we're going to try and uncover what's missing in your mix right now. So we're going to move into breakout rooms, and I hope Lorena's on the call. I can't see if she is. Beautiful. What we're going to do is a bit of networking. I want you guys to meet each other. So we're going to put you into some breakout rooms with the presenters just to say g'day, do some networking, work out if there's someone on the call you need to know, and we'll catch you back here in a few minutes. The question that I had was when we do marketing, and we talked about return on investment, how do you monitor your return on investment with you guys? Like, is there any level of commitment to producing the results? How does that work?
Well, we will work with a customer to understand what they're prepared to invest to win a customer.
Yeah.
And then we'll work towards getting the leads at that cost per acquisition price, which it doesn't happen overnight. It does take a little bit of time to get there. So whether it's Google ads, whether it's Facebook ads, whether it's search engine optimization, they all have a gestation period to get to their optimal levels.
So just this is a hard question to answer, but on average, what's the time period people should be expecting to wait until they start seeing results?
They'll, depending on what medium they choose, if it's paid ads on Google or Facebook, they'll get leads or sales within the first month.
Yeah, cool.
If it's optimization, that can take anywhere from 3 to 24 months. It just depends on how competitive the industry is. In most cases, we're seeing results in 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, if anyone's got any other questions, by all means, put them into the chat box. We will get all the presenters together at the end of the presentation, so you can understand how all three fit together. Look, our next part of the journey is, look, one of the challenges that we have with leads is they come in and we don't know what to do with them, or we try and sell to someone who's not ready to buy. And so I'm a big evangelist of having some sort of mechanism to capture leads and to nurture them. I've been doing that since the day I started business. And I've realized one of the most valuable assets any business owner will ever have is your database, your connections. And the trick is, how do you keep that nurturing going? How do you build relationships over time? So I'd like to introduce our next presenter, Peter Burgess. Now, Peter works on CRMs, is an expert in this area, and he's going to be talking today about literally, how do we build nurture, how technology can help manage opportunities better, and how we can evolve those customer relationships. So if you'd like to give Peter a nice warm welcome, let's get him on the call. Hey, Peter.
Thank you, everyone. I'll just share my screen. Hopefully that'll all work well. Let me just go and grab presentation. So the presentation is how technology can help you better manage your opportunities and customer relationships. So here we'll be talking about CRM, and we'll be talking about the sales workflow automation. So I'll give you a quick, oops, too far ahead. So the agenda is split as follows. So I'll give you a quick introduction into my company, and then we'll be talking about the problem. So everything when you're selling, especially, but even when I'm presenting this, I'll be talking about initially the problem that most people have in sales. There's lots of elements to the problem. Then the dream, which is your ideal scenario when everything's working perfectly, and then we'll look at the solution or a proposed solution to these problems we've identified. And the solution is the bridge between the problem you have and the dream, the ideal situation. So there'll be some case studies showing a couple of customers that I've actually worked with where we've solved some of these problems. Then I'll outline how I actually work, and then there's a Q&A, a couple of minutes of Q&A, and then you can, I'll show you, of course, how to contact me. So process culture itself, I've been in business for quite a while, so I've been full-time in business for more than 10 years, but the process culture sort of brand came along about 2 years ago. And process culture itself, it really means an organizational culture that is centered around efficient and effective business processes and their design and optimization. So our focus is actually on CRM selection and rollout, on sales workflow automation, so automating the sales workflow. So things that you would normally do manually in your day-to-day sales activities, and marketing automation as well, and then custom system integration. So the problem definition here, it's very important that we understand, what most people face in their business, because a lot of these issues will be familiar to you in your business, I'm sure. So how you gather, manage, and use information will determine whether you win or lose. Bill Gates. So there's issues of data and issues of process. So with the data in your business, we're talking here about customer data. So for example, customer records of conversations you've had, the email, the address, the contact details, telephone numbers, all that kind of information, a list of the staff within a business. That's the data. So often we're suffering from multiple sources of truth. So there can be data in an accounting system, there can be data in another cloud-based system in a spreadsheet, there could be physical paper books with contact details written down. You could even have an old school Filofax, or of course you have your address book in your phone, and you may well have a contacts list on Google, or on Gmail, or on Outlook, or whatever. So there's multiple sources of the truth. So if you want to find, the definitive record of a customer, it's not always clear which one's the latest and which one's the true one. Also, limited access. So you could be out there on the road, you could be meeting a customer and you've forgotten their address, for example, or you need their phone number. And that information is actually back at the office in a spreadsheet. And so you have to phone back to the office to get the information. All that information is in a different system. All the information you've got is out of date because the customer changed their telephone number and told the people back at the office, but you haven't been informed. So limited access is always an issue if you're not using the right tools. And then, of course, there's poor visibility. So with all this data in lots of different places, it can be quite difficult to get a clear picture of the KPIs in your business. You know, what activities have we carried out this week? How many deals do we have on the go? How many quotes do we have open? All that kind of information is missing. Then there are issues of process. So a lot of the things that we do in business, especially when we start in those early years, as we're learning the ropes, they can be very manual and repetitive. So you can imagine, you know, in a typical sales process where you've been out to meet customers, you've got to go back to the office and fill in information in the spreadsheet, or you've got to fill out some forms. And there's a sort of lot of manual work involved. Then you email it to someone else to follow up. Also, processes can be overly complex because they've kind of evolved over time and people have added their own spin. And before you know it, there's 20 steps in the process and you're not quite clear actually why there are 20 steps. It's just that's the way it is. And then from your customer's point of view, there's an inconsistent customer experience. Every time a new customer interacts with your business, they have a different experience because you haven't standardized the interface between your business and the customer. So these are elements of the problem that we have to solve. Now, in an ideal world, this is what your business would look like. The purpose of business is to create and keep a customer. So that's always the focus. It's how do we create and keep customers? So from a data point of view, what we ideally would like to have is a single source of truth. So one place which is the definitive source where we're storing all of our customer information. And then we'd like to have better access to the information. So we'd like to be able to have access on the road with your mobile phone or by your tablet, but always know that you're accessing the one source of truth from wherever you are, at home or on the road. Via a mobile app, for example, you're able to create notes, create audio clips, update all of the information, all of the outcomes from the meeting straight into the CRM so that it can be shared back with the office. So in real time, you're accessing data and you're actually able to also report on that data in real time. So let's say, for example, we've had a meeting, we've just closed a deal, then we run a report immediately after that, it's going to be up to date. Then there are issues of process. So there's in an ideal world, your processes would be very simple as they can be. So you've cleaned away all the waste. Also automated. So wherever possible, where something is repetitive and easily templated, I suppose, that this process could be automated. So for example, the process of following up quotes. After a week, you can follow up a quote automatically by sending out an email or sending out an SMS or informing your sales staff that they need to follow up. And then if we take some time to really automate and simplify processes, you can provide a very consistent customer experience. So every time a new customer comes into the business, they will receive the same experience as the previous customer, the same emails, the same welcome package, the same, just everything is exactly the same because you've standardized. So that was the problem. This is the dream. So what's the solution? So your business is a bit like a Rubik's Cube. It's a bit scrambled up. So what we're looking to do is ideally just turn it around a little bit and make a few adjustments. And then hopefully it will end up like this. So these are the elements of the solution. I've mentioned the single source of truth, of course, in the past, or just now. And then systemizing follow-ups is extremely important. Automating sales workflows, and then providing real-time reporting and dashboards. So the single source of truth is the CRM. So here, for example, I focus on Pipedrive, Fresh Sales, and Zoho as the main CRMs I work with. And these CRMs are great tools for providing you a central repository for storing data. So in the screenshots there, probably not so easy for you to see. There's an example here of a pipeline at the bottom, so you can see your individual deals and the various stages those deals are in. You can also store your contact data. You can store information about organizations that you've been working with. You can store your leads. You can store the progress of your leads through various stages of qualification. And you can store all of the communications with those leads and contacts. So every appointment, every follow-up phone call, audio clips of those phone calls, files, images, anything that's relevant, video, anything that's relevant to that discussion can be stored in the one place and shared amongst members of your team. So I recommend these three CRMs. My favorite is Pipedrive. Pipedrive and Fresh Sales are pretty good for small to medium business. And also Zoho is pretty powerful too. So this is really the key to my presentation. Probably this is the most important slide to remember, which is the fortune is in the follow-up. So many people, in fact, here it says the statistics, 58% of salespeople only call once. Well, it's the truth that most people will only interact with a potential lead maybe once or twice, and then they'll forget about it. For example, think about all those people you connect with on LinkedIn or social media. Someone might express an interest, but you don't follow up. So things don't go any further. 15% of salespeople make 5 or more contacts. So it's only the minority of salespeople that are actually making regular contact. And 15% of sales are actually occurring after the 5th contact. So I reckon that's wrong. I think it's probably more like 80% of sales. So I think I made a mistake on the slide there. But yeah, most sales actually occur after the 5th contact. So what you need is a system for following up, because obviously we can't remember when we're interacting with so many people, we can't remember to follow up. So that's where the CRM comes in. Sales workflow automation is critically important as well to improving the customer experience, but also to assisting with that follow-up process. So for example, quote follow-up, you put out a quote, you waited for a week. Now, currently, without any kind of automations in place, you have to remember to follow up. So you might have a spreadsheet or a little book where you remember, okay, this week I have to follow up, I have to give them a call. Now, if you're using quoting software or using something like Proposify, for example, proposal software, this process is automated within the tool. But inside the CRM, you can also achieve a similar result by creating workflows within the CRM that basically are activated when a deal has been in the quote phase, for example, for a certain period of time. So at different phases in the pipeline, you can have different automations being activated. And then there's customer onboarding. So once you've won a deal, you can actually have the CRM kicking off workflow to send out a welcome email and a welcome pack. And then there's customer feedback. So for example, you've completed an installation or you've completed a specific phase, you can then send out a feedback form to the customer. And then the final piece, which is really, really important, is real-time reporting and dashboards. Because without real-time reporting and dashboards, you don't have the visibility to make decisions in your business. So the most important reports tend to relate to sales activity. So what are you actually doing in your business on a day-to-day basis to ensure that you get the results that you're looking for? So that is the how many appointments you're booking, how many phone calls you're making, how many emails you are sending out. That's really, really important activity. And I think to emphasize, when you're using a CRM, the number one most important thing you should be doing is looking at the activities dashboard and looking at what you have to do today and making sure every single day that you have follow-ups, that you have activities, because that's what drives your sales results. Then there are reports around pipeline performance, for example, how many deals have you started, how many deals are in progress, and deal velocity is like how long does it take a deal to move from one phase to another, and which deals are getting stuck in a stage for a long time. And then sales performance, how many deals have you won? What's the value of deals that you've won? And critically important information, when you've lost deals, why have you lost them? At a high level, I'll give you a couple of case studies as well. So I've worked with a number of clients in different industries. providing similar services, either sales process mapping or CRM rollout, and migration from existing sources, for example, spreadsheets to a CRM. So just before COVID, I worked with a client in the fashion industry, helping them to move to Pipedrive. So they had previously their systems, all of their data was in spreadsheets and then different, actually some of them on paper as well. But taking that data and then moving it into Pipedrive. And the biggest job that I had to do there was actually customizing Pipedrive. So looking at the business model, looking at the types of clients they were working with, and matching the data we were going to store in the CRM with that model. So for example, making sure we could segment their customers, and we could report accurately according to what they required. So there's a lot of work with custom design there of the data model. Then I'm working on a security consultants project, rolling out to fresh sales. And that's an ongoing project, very interesting project. So taking, again, spreadsheets and paper and different sources of data, and then moving everything into the CRM. And again, there was a moving from another CRM into this CRM. So it's multiple sources plus an additional CRM. And then I worked with a media agency as well, mapping out their sales process and making recommendations for improvement in the sales process. And again, that agency was working with Pipedrive. So this is how I work. I don't recommend picking a CRM off a shelf and just going with it. There is actually a whole process around selection of a CRM and implementation of a CRM. So the first step is to actually have a review of your sales process, is actually look at how you actually sell. Now we can do it at a high level, or it can be done by actually mapping with a technique called BPMN, which is Business Process Modeling Notation. It's basically fancy flowchart, standardized format. And then you look at, once you understand how that business actually sells and the kind of data they capture, then it's appropriate to look at what are the best options for a CRM. So which CRM would be suitable. And then the next stage is data and workflow design. So designing the data model within the CRM and designing the automations, the sales workflow automations that will help their business. And then roll out the CRM, train the staff to use the CRM. And it's not just the physical CRM that they use on their PC or on the notebook. It's also a CRM app which you use on your phone. So that the sales team on the road actually understand how to use the tools. And a large element, and this is not just with CRMs, but it's also with a lot of the projects I've done in the past with integration, is always people need reports and dashboards. And that's actually a driving reason for having a CRM in a way, is that the business at last has access to information about their customers and about their own activities, which can help them improve their business. So any questions? And I'll break from the main part of my presentation. My contact details are here.
Awesome. Let's give Peter a bit of a hand. Quite a lot of technical stuff there. You know, for some people, this is the stuff that they're not that interested in. The most important part for them is actually, how do I get the clients to convert into sales? I think one of the main messages I got out of that from Peter is this whole notion of there is a system that you can actually capture all your leads into. It's a bit like having a sieve. When we generate leads with someone like Craig, Lead Generator, and we pour it into a CRM, we're actually blocking all the holes. So we're making sure that we're optimizing the return on investment for each of those. What we're going to do is we're going to drop out into some breakout rooms again, just so you can meet some new people and have a bit of a chat. And we'll be back in a few minutes so that we can get into our last presentation, which is really the skill of how to sell. And we'll be doing that with Cindy. So let's switch out to the breakout rooms now, and we'll catch up with you guys soon. Before we go on to our next presenter, I've got a couple of questions that I want to ask everyone. And I suppose what I wanted to really touch on is this whole notion of, you know, we've talked about two things today. We've talked about lead generation, and we've talked a bit about nurturing. And I want to understand where you guys are at. So into the chat box, I want you to answer this question for me. Now, in the ideal world, and I'll just draw this for you so you get what we're talking about. Lead generation. Normally, if I look at most people's marketing, it looks a bit like this. It's a diving board, and they're sitting on the end here. And the diving board is a very unstable platform, and usually it has only one pillar, and that's why it's unstable. And what it means is that when your referrals dry up, because this pillar over here would be referrals, when that dries up, the whole thing collapses. A marketing system requires multiple lead generation strategies. And what I mean by that is we should have SEO, AdWords, We might have some Facebook group. We might have something like, so there's got to be, the idea is to have 10 strategies that are producing 10% of your leads each, which gives you 100%. So in terms of having that in your business, right, that would be what I would consider a green light. Green light means I have multiple marketing strategies that support each other and they work automatically without me having to do anything. Okay, and there'd be 10 of them. Yellow light means you've probably got 3 or less marketing strategies that are working simultaneously, but they depend on you. And a red light means that you don't have any other marketing except for word of mouth. What I'd like you to do is into the chat box, I'd like you to tell me whether you're red light, green light, or yellow light on your marketing strategies right now. So red light means word of mouth only. Yellow light means I've probably got 2 or 3 strategies, but they rely on me. And green light means I've got up to 10 strategies that are automated and they're spitting leads out every single month, rain, hail, or shine. Let's have a look at some of these colors. A few yellows, awesome. 1 green, good on you, Michael. Lynn's got a yellow, Meryl's got a yellow, Alex got a yellow. Yellow light's good. The reason I wanted to bring this up is because for me in business, marketing is the highest priority. Most people undercapitalize in marketing because they don't use it as an investment, they use it as expense. And to me, when people say, how much do you spend on marketing? The answer isn't the least amount possible, it's the most amount possible. Now, the only reason I say that is I know my return. And the only thing that stops me spending money on marketing, there's 2 things. There's lack of cash and there's lack of resourcing. They're the only 2 things, right? But other than that, it's a very high item on our expense. So I want to do the same with nurture. So we're going to do the same question. So if you have a mechanism, a CRM that is working for you right now, and you know that every lead gets managed, and you do newsletters or email marketing on a monthly basis at minimum, on a consistent basis, that is a green light. Yellow light means I do capture my leads, I do follow them up, but I do it manually. I do it by telephone call or by sporadic email. And red light is I ring people. If they don't buy from me, I send them a quote and I hope they reply sometime in the future. Let's get into the chat box. What is the lights that we have for nurture? We've got a red from Don. We've got a yellow, we've got a yellow, we've got a yellow. Okay, awesome. Yellow going green, awesome. We've got some people moving in the right direction here. What I want you to do, this is really about you understanding exactly where you sit with these 2 strategies, because they have to be systems within the business. It's not a matter of, I have a CRM, it's how well is it used. It's not a matter of I actually spend money on SEO, it's how many leads is it generating, and do you have multiple strategies? Because when SEO goes south, which it does, when something happens with Google's algorithm, you need to have plan B, C, and D, right? You need to have multiple marketing strategies running in parallel. So now that we understand where you stand with these 2, let's talk about the last, but probably just as important as all the others is when you do get these inquiries coming in your front door, what are you doing to make sure that you optimize your ability to convert? Now, for some people, sales is a dirty word. They don't like it. They don't like to be associated with that sort of thing. And for other people, they love doing sales. It's their favorite thing on the planet. Today, we're going to be talking with Cindy Drake, who's one of our lead coaches here, and she's going to be talking about tips to help you close the deals and get more business in the door. So let's hand over to Sydney. Let's give her a nice warm welcome. Hey!
So who is beaming with excitement because of the sales from your business? Or who would like to be beaming of excitement because of the sales in your business? Today, I want to give you the, yay, we've got some hands up there. Awesome, guys. So today, what I want to do is talk to you and give you the opportunity to stop and think about what you could do to improve those conversations. So I am a business coach here at Outcomes Business Coach and have been working here for a while, but ever since I was a kid, I've always been curious about how to make things better. And I started in the business world at the age of 13 with mum and dad, and we had a petroleum business or a wholesaler and a retailer. Dad used to drive the massive big tanker around dropping off fuel to the service stations, and mum and I would work in the service station helping clients, and that's where I really got to understand the power of building relationships with your clients. We had some great years in business, but our family ended up breaking up because of business. So it's now my dream and passion to help business owners have the best life possible while they have a business. Something that I really enjoy doing as a business coach is really giving business owners a great perspective in their business so that they really know how to keep moving forward through the good and the bad times. I think there's so much that goes on in business. Having the right perspective is one of your secret weapons. So So look at this eagle. How awesome would it feel to be flying in the sky like this eagle, watching everything, watching the world and dipping in for a feed here or there whenever you need it. Now, sales gives you this opportunity in business if you can really master it well. I guess a lot of business owners go into business thinking that they're going to show people how to do it the right way, or they're really passionate about a particular product or service offering. But then they go into business and they have to sell. And that's when they start noticing some blockages pop up on their journey. Now, when you get the opportunity to understand the value of how sales can give you freedom in the business, you'll really start taking the process, how to get the conversations converting at the highest rate possible to make sure that you can maximize your returns and enjoy life a little bit more. So, as the salesperson in the business, it's really going to focus a lot on the results of the efforts that you invest into your sales conversation or the sales process in its whole entirely. So Craig has talked about the marketing funnel, how to attract different leads. Peter has talked about how to nurture them through an automation process of automation to make your life easier and to have some consistency. It's a great way to understand how you can see what's working, what's not. But the sales conversation, I've noticed, can be a big hit or miss for people if they haven't structured and made it very clear what their intention is going to be in the sales conversation. So the picture of this boy in capturing this bubble, isn't it just fantastic? The all that he has in his face wanting to capture this bubble. That's the kind of excitement and fun your sales should be if you've got the right person at the other end of the table that you're having the conversation with. So this child was once a baby, didn't really just sat, ate, sleep, couldn't do much. Over the years, it took time to actually understand how to use the function of his body and master his mind to be able to reach out and grab this bubble. Sales is a bit like that as well. You'd think it's an easy conversation to, you'd think that it's a natural thing to have a conversation with someone, but the biggest part about sales is that it is a communication process. It's how you're communicating from one person to the other. So there's similar skills that we need to learn throughout the process, and mastering sales is as fast as you can is going to be one of the best gifts that you can give to yourself and your business. So some tips that I really want to go through today and help understand this process a little bit more is definitions, the readiness. It's really a form of communication with people. It's educational, should be a nice clear practice that you have in the business, and you keep tweaking and improving it as you get feedback from your clients. The best results happen when there's a structure and you're not leaving it to chance. So there's different communication methods that people have as well. There's lots to a sales conversation that you can master over time. Taking it step by step is a really good way to get ahead of the game. So I love to have presentations that are a bit more engaging and fun. So to get that ball rolling, there are some definitions I just want to clarify with the audience here. In the chat box, when you think about when your parents bought a car when you were a kid, what was your association with a salesperson when you were a child? Was it the person on the left or the person on the right? If you just type left or right into the chat box, who would you associate more with the salesperson as a kid? And there's no right or wrong answers in this. It's just really interesting to see where we sit in these situations. I like that in the middle. That's so political. Yes, so it's really interesting in terms of where we grow up and the kind of influences that we have. But then when you started your business, what was your thoughts around sales when you started your business? Because it's definitely one of the hats that you have to wear, and there's so many different skills that you start taking on board when you become a business owner. How did you feel about the sales process? something you enjoyed, something you knew you had to spend a bit more time understanding more on? What's 2 or 3 words that describe how you felt about sales when you started? Thanks, guys, for contributing your thoughts in here. Confidence is a big one with the sales process, mastering, feeling confident in the conversation and not taking it as a personal rejection. They're definitely big things to get over. Enjoying helping. And then now, after you've been in business for a little bit, what would your thoughts be around sales now that you've been in business for a little bit? Still enjoy helping. Nice one, Craig. Any other thoughts about how you feel about sales now? Has your relationship with sales changed since you've sharing testimonials is a really nice one as you develop your team? Continued relationships, it's necessary. Yep. Good. So the definition for sales is really professionally helping people. So we can get caught up in this quandrum about our own beliefs around what we think a salesperson is, and those beliefs will give you a certain level of confidence when you come to the conversation to have that chat with someone else. So it's about professionally helping people and mastering and fixing those beliefs that you have in your head, or from the experiences that you've had as a child, or from different environments that you've grown up, will be a really key aspect to helping you feel a lot more confident in the room to know that you are helping people. So very quickly, just a couple more questions in the chat box around this one. When we talk about customers, what are 3 words that come to your mind when we talk about customers? And don't overthink these ones, especially when you just pop them out. How do you feel about customers? Yes, customers always think they're right. Any other thoughts about how you feel about your customers? Everyone's got customers, right? Relationships, repeat, niche or target market, business, tight, need me. Yep. Great. And then while you're still thinking about the customers, they need help, that they appreciate our experience, trust, loyalty. Beautiful. Okay, good. While you're on that roll, what are your beliefs around money? Growing up, what did you believe around money? Yes, it's true. Hard to make money and easy to spend, never enough. That's a common one. Yes, doesn't grow on trees. Had to earn it. Hard to earn it. And then also, when we think about our products or our service offering, what are our beliefs and thoughts around our products and service offering? Good market fit, quality and genuine. And it's really interesting, this exercise, what I want to keep emphasizing here is the beliefs that you bring into the game for your sales conversations is, you know, typically when I ask people around these 3 questions, with customers, they either love them or find them a pain to deal with. Beliefs, money can be hard work. And then when it comes to our service and product offering, we think we have the best on the market. But the true responses will be like, I guess numbers never lie, and your sales in your business will tell you how you're doing. So if you find that you need to tweak your sales conversations and processes, testing our thoughts on our beliefs here might be a really great way to start thinking about whether or not you're entering the conversation in the right place to start with. So mastering our assumptions and beliefs around the process to start with is a really good way to enter the conversation. All right, so it's enough around our beliefs, but beliefs are going to be the main thing. So but the reason why I asked those questions from you is because when it comes to communications, your physiology and the tone that you use in that conversation is going to be worth 80% or more. And that all comes from your mindset and your intention of the conversation and how you approach the conversation. So if you think you got a really well written script of how you want to approach it, you can almost throw that out if you're not physically present and in that conversation in the right way. That's the power and importance of your beliefs and mindset. Just biggest takeaway. So don't find customers for your products, find products for your customers. I love Seth Godin. So beliefs are going to be either your friend or foe. The other trick to doing this with Seth's comment here is making sure that you really nail who your ideal customer is. If you try and sell to everybody, you're going to find that you're not talking the right language to every person. You're going to have a lot more conversations. You can reduce the conversations that you have by having the right person in the room. So when you have the right person in the room, you can really add value by knowing who your target market is and adding value in the process. So once you get someone into the room to have a conversation with them, the next question is when they come to the conversation to talk about potentially buying your product or service, two things you really need to know here. Are they actually ready to buy your product? Have you done enough of the nurturing and questioning process beforehand to understand if they're ready to buy? And have you got the right buying, the decision makers in the room? And the other one is, have they gotten to know and like you yet? Or are they still learning about you? Have you got enough trust in the game that you can even have this conversation? There can be so much work that goes into the process of getting a lead and nurturing them to the table. But if you haven't nurtured them in the right way to make sure that you've built some trust and some touch points in the game, you're going to have to do a lot of work in that 1 hour conversation to make sure that you can get the best conversion. Now, I hear a lot of people tell me that, they have great high conversion rates. And I bet you it's going to be those people who have a lot of word of mouth referrals where someone else has probably done the sales part for them. So when you start going out and farming new lead generation, you're going to really have to understand the sales process so that you can be talking to people and earning the trust with them instead of someone else doing that just because it's been word of mouth. Big difference there when you have word of mouth and start farming your sales process. So something to be mindful of. When you have the conversation, I need to sit over to the side here. When you have a conversation, you need to have a structure. If you don't have a structure or an outline of how you want to enter this conversation, you may end up getting a bit lost and just leaving it to chance. You've done so much hard work to get here. Make sure that you've got a bit of a process that you're following. This all starts out with making sure you got a purpose statement at the start of the conversation and you're taking control. So this is like a 30-minute hello where you just take control. It's called framing. That's the word I'm looking for in my little stumble here. Framing the conversation so that you take control. So once you do your greetings and pleasantry, you can then do your purpose statement, open up and say, do you mind if I quickly run through how I normally run through these meetings? So I'm going to ask you a number of questions around your business so I can really understand your business, where the problems might be. And if we think we have a solution for you, I'll outline them for you and we can work out how to get you going. How's that sound? Now, when you do that kind of framing at the start of the conversation, you are taking control of the scenario and you're opening the table and you're letting them know the next, I'm going to start asking you lots of questions so that I can understand your business. This is a beautiful process. When you get into this, you're taking control from the start. So get control, know that you're going to have to ask lots of conversations, but have a clear process in terms of where you want to go so that you've got a bit of an overlay. Even if you do meander off, you come back and you're going to get the essentials out of the conversation. Most people think that selling is talking, but it's really the most effective salespeople are the ones who do the listening. So how to do that will be making sure that you master your questioning. And when we go into questioning, that is going to be a process of asking open-ended questions, starting to understand and hear where some of their problems are. You might go into some specific questions to dig down deeper. Now, when people are buying, and this is where some people feel really uncomfortable about it, buying is an emotional game. We buy 80% of the sales process is based on emotion. That's where some people feel funny about it. They don't feel comfortable in the emotion. But if you are talking about their problems and how you can help them through that scenario, you're actually helping them through the process. So don't be afraid of asking questions and trying to remember you are professionally helping them if you've got the right person at the end of the table and you're going to add value to their lives. So when you present the value of your products and services in a clear and compelling way, then you've tackled most of the objections. Now, when people come up with objections, it's generally because they don't have all the answers and they're not completely sure about whether this is an investment or an expense. Don't be shy of asking more around these objections and how you might be able to help people clarify any of the questions that you've left unanswered for them. So a lot of active listening, repeat back what they say, and validate the prospect's concerns because they're actually trying to communicate to you and explain that they don't fully understand. It's not a thing of rejection, it's just about having a better conversation. Wrapping up, build rapport with these people, like the people that you're trying to add value in their lives. This is a conversation. Build rapport. We know that that is mostly through our physiology. Some really good active listening. Add value to their lives. It's not about product pushing or it's not about taking an order. It's about trying to really add value for your niche market. Structure the chat so you're not leaving it to chance. Ask lots of questions. People love to talk about themselves and what they're going through. So make sure you ask lots of questions to really understand what's going on for them. Check if they're ready. When it comes to the close, if you've done the process the whole way and they trust you, they're ready to buy, and you know that you are going to give them good value, then you can do the close. If you don't cover off all those things, don't try and close. Organize another meeting and maybe answer some of their questions through a different way. Closing a sale is about adding value to someone's business. Right now, your competition is in training. Are your sales conversations structured and converting? And is it time for you to maybe do a review of your sales process? If you need any help in that space, always happy to chat. And I hope you got some great tips to take away here to think about how you're doing sales in your business.
Awesome. Let's give Cindy a nice round of applause. Well done. A lot to take in about understanding the emotional side of sales and really just, I suppose, making sure we're closing sales and we're not fearful of it. So once again, I think there's two things. Anyone who would like to get the slides from the presenter, if you just let us know in the chat box, if you'd like to get a copy of the slides, let us know. The second thing I'd like to do is I want you to rate your own sales process right now. Now, a green light for me means that you have a documented sales process, and that means there's a flow chart and there's scripting. Right? And you're actually measuring your conversion rates. That's a green light to me. A yellow light means you're pretty good at sales. You're a natural. You got the gift of the gab and you've been doing it for years and you wing it. And a red light means that you have a very fundamental sales process, which is pretty much just answer anyone's questions and give them prices. So let's see what the traffic light system tells us. Got a yellow, got a red. We've got a few others. They're coming in. What was green? Green is fully automated. That means you've got a flow chart, you've got sales scripts, and you actually measure your results. So you know your conversion rate every step of the way. Yellow is that you wing it. And red is that you don't have a process, you just cross your fingers and hope that people like your personality, which is important too. So we've got a few greens, we've got a few reds, and we've got a few yellows. Awesome. Look, what I'd like you to do, because one of the really important things about this kind of event is you've got three presenters in front of you right now. They're all experts in different aspects of making sure you've got a full funnel for next year. So if it's your marketing, if it's your attraction strategy that's not working for you right now, you need to reach out to Craig, or you need to mention that into the chat box that attract is the thing that you need to work on over the next 3 months. If it's your nurture system, so if you don't have a CRM, or if you're not doing a good job of doing email communication, newsletters and things like that with your clients, that then is nurture, and you need to type in the word nurture into the chat box. And if it's purely closing, so you're getting the leads, they're properly qualified prospects and you're not converting sales, then it's convert that you need to type in the chat box. So let us know what it is that you need the help with into the chat box, and I'll just give you a minute to do that. All of the above. Good on you, Don. At least we know where to start, and that's with everything. What else is there? I mean, if it's all of it, it's all of it, because some people don't think of this area as being worthwhile investment. Now, I will suggest going back to what I said right at the start, you know, one of the reasons that people are not actually putting their sales process together is they're too busy. You know, and this is what we see a lot of, right? We see people are in chaos, right? They're the people that are in busyness. Remember those people we talked about at the start? And the reason they don't have a sales process is they don't have the time. Now, the reason they don't have a marketing process is they can't measure things. They don't know their acquisition cost. They don't know their lifetime value. They're just too busy trying to keep up with the flow. And so when we're in chaos, we cannot build a marketing system. Now, there's two reasons we market in business. There's two reasons you want to get new clients. The first one is obviously to fill up your cash flow, but the second one is to get out of price competition. Because I know that if I have 5 people knocking on the door for my service, I don't need to worry about price as much as if I've only got 1 person knocking on the door. So if you're in a price competitive market, if you're getting beaten by quotes from competitors, you need to review your marketing strategy, because my suggestion is you're not getting enough quality leads. Okay. Getting out of chaos and getting into control is the fundamental thing a business owner must do, right? So then we can actually move into that next stage, which is growth. Because to me, marketing is very simple. It's maths, right? You spend money, you make money. The more you spend, the more you make, and that allows us to grow. But if I'm too busy to make the right decision here, I can burn my cash, right? And this whole growth thing is about getting to the stage where you've got enough money in the bank account that you can start employing people to grow your business. There's 3 phases to growing a business. The first one is to get out of chaos. And that's the biggest area, if you notice, on this pyramid, because that's the one where most people get stuck. And when we're out of chaos, then we can move into growth. So for those guys who are running a self-employed business, I know there's a few on the call. One of the biggest challenges we have is managing our own time, because it's finite, right? It's very difficult to double a business when you're in the center of attention. So you've got to start working on that plan. Now, for those of you who know that, then this period of time is about planning. How do I implement my marketing over the next 90 days? How do I make sure that I've got a nurture system, and how do I make sure I convert? Now, the side effect of that is you'll get really busy, okay? And if that's a good, I'll tell you now, it's a good problem to have, because I'd rather be busy with high-paying customers than busy chasing leads that aren't converting. And there's an old saying, one of my favorite philosophers of all time, Jim Rohn, and he said this, I learned this when I was 20 years old. And I was reading one of his books, and he said this statement, and it said, never wish life were easier, because we can't control what happens in the environment. We can't control the fact that COVID came out of nowhere. If I told you a year ago we'd be locked in our houses and wearing face masks every day, you'd think I was mad, right? But there's one thing we can control, and that's you, right? So never wish life was easier, wish you were better. And as you grow as a person, as you evolve with your marketing strategies, as you evolve with your systems in your business, and as you evolve with your sales process, you will find that your business will grow to your level of ability, right? So some people are hamstrung by their own skills. You know, we grow to our level of incompetence. And if we don't grow our level of competence, the business will just keep hitting that glass ceiling. So make it an obligation, make it a thing that you do as a business owner, is to be looking at how do I improve my skills so that I can grow my business. Now, some of you have done the business adaptation plan roundtable with us before. And this is really about planning a business model that's going to guarantee a result. So for those who haven't done it, it's a 2-hour workshop. The next one's on the 25th of November in the morning. If you haven't done this, I'm going to ask you to come, and I'll invite you as my guest. So there's no cost. If you're interested in attending the business adaptation plan, just let me know in the chat box. Just say yes or adapt, call it BAP. Just put BAP in the chat box if you'd like to attend the business adaptation plan. The next one's on the 25th, no cost. If you're on this call, just say so and we'll put you in there. The last thing I want to suggest is, before we wrap up, right, we're sort of a bit early on time, and I'm going to make sure that you never leave a situation where you're sitting on a seminar like this without some takeaways. So I just want you to spend 2 minutes going through all of the notes from all of the 3 presenters, all of the notes that you took or anything that you listened to, and what are your top 3 action items? What are your top 3 action items that you're going to do as a result of today? Okay. Can I just get you to write those down either in your notepad, or you can put them straight into the chat box? What are your top 3 action items that you're going to do as a result of what you heard from the 3 presenters today? Let's see what comes through the chat box, and let's have a bit of a chat around that. What are you going to do differently? Because look, the one thing for me is it's nice to listen to people talk and get a bit of enthusiasm, but what are you going to do as a result of listening? You know, I meet a lot of people who go to seminars or they read books and they go, that was a great book. I go, great. What did you get out of it? Oh, it was really good. Yes, but what did you learn and what are you going to do to implement what you learned? So don't walk away from 90 minutes of your life that you just listen to these three guys without an action plan. So let's get some action items out of you guys. What is the top thing that you're going to do differently as a result of today? Into the chat box. Lynn, review digital marketing strategy. Awesome. International reach. That's the exciting part about what COVID's done. It's put everyone online, which means we don't have borders anymore. That's a really good one. Thank you. What else we got? Who else has got a distinction or a lesson out of today's session? Into the chat box, please. Yes, measuring customer feedback forms. How much do clients spend? See, I'll suggest two things. CRM, definitely. Thanks, Swiv. What I would suggest also is learning what your acquisition cost is, the actual dollar value. Who knows what their acquisition cost is right now? Show of hands. All right, one person out of 20, right? And I would challenge that everyone in this call needs to know exactly what that number is. And it's something that you can calculate right now. Just look at last month's expenses, marketing and sales, and then divide it by the number of new leads. Awesome. Work out acquisition cost, lifetime value. Thank you. Automation is definitely the key. Top 3 actions, CRM, got it. 10 strategies for planning, for marketing in the next 3 to 4 weeks. See, we work in 90-day chunks here, right? And what I suggest is we've got 90 days coming up. What are the top 3 things you're going to implement over the next 90 days? Now, some people are going to say a holiday away from home, and that's okay. You've got 2 more, right? What are the things you're going to implement within your business over the next 90 days? Here we go. We've got find one new way to automate another step in the client nurturing phase. Excellent. Thank you, Cindy. And Alex, top 3 actions, CRM, making sure we've got top 10 strategies. The thing with 10 marketing strategies, don't do them all at once. Get experts to educate you, show you what the best ones are and pick the top one and then do the second one. And I want you to imagine, you know, in the old days, they used to have the circus with the clowns with the spinning plates, and they'd spin one plate and they'd stick it on the stand. And they'd spin up another plate and they'd stick it on the stand. And they're your marketing strategies. And by the time they get to the third one, the first one needs a bit of a tweak because marketing will always adapt to the market. So you need to have some way of identifying what those strategies are and having someone who can manage them for you. Some really good points here. I hope you got some value out today, guys. First thing I'd like to do is acknowledge our presenters. If we'd like to give them a nice round of applause for putting in some great effort and teaching us some new stuff. And the second thing I'd like to use applause is yourself, because you managed to stare at a screen for about 95 minutes without blinking, which is pretty impressive. And I can't tell those people haven't got their camera on. So we've got a few people who are going to join us for the That's Awesome Business Adaptation Plan. For the rest of you, if you would like to speak to one of these presenters, they've given you their contact details on the screen. You've probably put it in the chat box already, and we will make sure that they reach out to those people that have asked first, okay? Anyone else who's got any questions, would like to get copies of slides or just help in any one of these 3 areas, ask, because these guys are available. They're not going to charge you unless they can see value in working with you. They're going to try and work out whether they can help you or not. And if there's if you don't resonate with them, it's fine, right? This is all part of just learning what's out there and what's available. So I want to thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Yeah, afternoon, guys. It's